It's been about 2 years since I've put in my 6 gorgeous dragon fruit plants, and they've done incredibly well, but they're looking a little bit tired. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you 3 tips for caring for dragon fruit that are already mature. The first thing you wanna pay attention to is the growth of your dragon fruit. Once established, these plants really can go crazy, and this particular variety, which is called Sour Patch Kid, one of my favorites to eat, but can get a little vigorous. And so what I'm gonna be doing here is pruning off some of the top growth to help shape this plant. Remember, dragon fruit, when grown in this trellis structure, want to fall down and produce a lot of flowers. But as you can see here, this particular one is going absolutely wild. And so something I'm going to do is prune off situations like this, where there's a stem chunk that's less than about 6 inches long or so. I'm just gonna come in, give that a chop, and don't worry, I'll show you what to do with these a little bit later. This is another situation where there's a bunch of small chunks in a row, so I'm actually gonna remove both. I'm also gonna remove anything that looks a little too diseased for me to deal with, especially if it's short and stubby. On this one here, which is my sugar dragon, you can see there's a lot of new growth coming out, which is a really good sign, but in my opinion, there's a little too much. Every single one of these nodes is throwing out new vegetative growth, which, while I don't think it's ready to remove just yet, you're gonna wanna keep an eye on this, because if this one stem is throwing out 10 that all try to grow, it could make this side a little bit heavy and start pulling the trellis in all these weird directions, which has actually happened to other parts of the dragon fruit orchard here. So again, I'm not gonna remove it just yet, but I'll keep a watchful eye, and I'll try to remove some of the weaker ones in the months to come. Down here on my red Jaina, I've got a couple unproductive stems. And what I mean by that is, we already know this plant has grown all the way up to the top of the trellis. What is this actually gonna do for us? Pretty much nothing. And so it's a really good time to remove. And I would encourage you, get some gloves depending on the variety, because some of these can be pretty sharp and you can really actually damage yourself. So I'm gonna remove these. And like I said, this is not a pure sacrifice. In fact, dragon fruit are so resilient that you can clone these, propagate them, and plant more in your garden or send some to friends. All I like to do is give it a quick label with a pen. And then I have an entire video I've prepared for you a couple years back showing you exactly how to propagate dragon fruit from cuttings. As dragon fruit age, it's almost inevitable they're gonna succumb to some kind of disease. And in the case of my red Jaina here, you can see it is covered by cactus rust. In fact, some areas were so covered that we actually had to cut it away. And that is something that's an extreme measure, but dragon fruit is so resilient, you can actually do it. I'm gonna show you how to do it right now. So take a look at this stem here. I've drawn out a fake rust spot. So let's pretend this spot is really infested and it's actually starting to rot and go a little bit soft. What you can do is come in with a knife, be gentle, but you know, it's a resilient plant like I mentioned, so don't freak out. And you can actually slice the tissue and cut the rot directly out of the plant. And it will completely survive this, because as long as you keep that central spine intact, the plant can still survive. So I'm just making some cuts here. And yeah, it's a little bit finicky. You kind of have to nudge some of it out, but take a look. I've removed that rot, at least in this case, the fake rot, and you can scrape with your knife as far as that rot goes. The only thing you don't want to do is damage that interior spine. So let's see if we can get down there. And there you go. Eventually you will reach a spot where there is no more rot or mush. And at that point, let the plant be. You'll actually notice in about a day or two, this will completely heal over and you're good to go. That's the more extreme option. There is a much simpler option. In fact, there are 2 that involve a spray of some kind. The safer spray is going to be a 50-50 mix of hydrogen peroxide and water. Just use it quickly, it degrades, and you just want to come in and coat the plant. So that's the safest one, but you also have the option to use copper fungicide. This is the foolproof method. It's still an organic fungicide, except for that it has some interactions with soil life that might not be super beneficial. So if you're going to use it, I might even cover the soil of your container before you go ahead and spray. But you want to mix 2 fluid ounces into a gallon of water. We'll put the metric up there for you. It's the same thing. You want to just come through and fully coat it. And with dragon fruit, make sure you're getting all 3 sides of that stem. There's this one, and then the one under. There could be a ton of rust under here that I don't know about. That's why I like this sprayer, because I can hold it upside down and it's still perfectly sprayed, so I can kind of fully coat. Now, treatment-wise, every 2 weeks or so while you're dealing with the rust problem, hit it with a treatment and you should see it start to abate. What I like to do at this time of year for mature dragon fruit, this is spring, so the dragon fruit probably are a little bit hungry, they're ready to grow, it's time to give them some food. So I'm gonna remove my mulch layer, and this is micro bark that I'm using, which you can get from pretty much any nursery. So what I'd do is I'd remove the bark, and then I would also probably top up on mulch as well, but first we need to remove and fertilize. Now it's time to apply. I'm using a 575. This particular one is from Happy Frog. It's actually just a tomato vegetable mix. You don't need to get fancy or precious here. You just need to give it some good organic granular fertilizer. I'm actually going a little bit extreme here and topping it off quite a bit. This is a granular organic, so it's not going to break down extremely quickly like a synthetic or a liquid would. So I'm okay to over apply, even if it looks like I'm going a little too crazy. It's gonna be totally fine. So I'm just coming in, I'm gonna give it a little bit of a scratch in, nothing too wild. It's actually really interesting to see the quality of the soil now. The roots on the dragon fruit have matured so much that I can't get in as much as I thought I could. These roots are crazy, and it's why most people opt to grow dragon fruit in containers like this, because in the soil, I mean, this is a solid mass right here. It's a little bit wild to see, but a good sign of growth. So I've worked this in, time to reapply the mulch and water it in. As your dragon fruit mature, they're going to grow in somewhat unpredictable ways. So you can see behind me, they've kind of gotten a little wonky and off. And if they fall, well, there goes a couple years worth of growth. So it's a good time to reset them, shore them up, maybe even build new structures as they get absolutely massive. If you want to know more about dragon fruit, check our playlist out. It's probably the most informative one out there. And until next time, good luck in the garden and keep on growing.